Hello, I'm David Hamilton, composer of Erebus, and I'm here at Waikumete Cemetery in front of the Erebus Memorial. This new work for Auckland Choral is the third work that I've written based on the story of the Air New Zealand crash in the Antarctic in 1979. Again, I've turned to the poetry of Bill Sewell, who wrote an extended cycle of poetry called Erebus, based around the crash and the aftermath and then the Royal Commission. And I was drawn to his poetry, and of course the story is something that almost any New Zealander alive in 1979 remembers when the events unfolded in late November of that year. The night the news came through of the disappearance of the plane, I was in my flat. I was at university at that stage, and we were all listening to the news. The first indication was that there'd been no communication from the plane for a while. Then came the news that it had to be down somewhere because it had passed the point of no return in terms of its fuel. And then it wasn't until the next day that eventually the crash site was discovered, and it was clear that the plane had simply ploughed into the mountain and there would be very unlikely to be any survivors. Writing a work like Erebus or any choral music inevitably starts with the words. In this case, I couldn't find a single poem in Bill Sewell's cycle that really suited, so I've more or less assembled a text from extracts from several of the poems. Breaking the Quiet still exists as a complete work as the second movement of this work. It's a three-movement work. The other movements, the other two movements that the choir is involved in, are assemblages of extracts from the poetry. I hope that people will be moved by it. I hope that people will see it as something that is intended to be a tribute and a memorial to those who died in the crash. Auckland Choral has a connection with the flight, in that the wife of the pilot was a long-standing member of Auckland Choral in the 70s, 80s. She was in the choir when I joined the choir first. And I hope that it will maybe touch people in different ways. I hope people will find it also just as a piece of music, an enjoyable experience, a piece that they can enjoy on a number of levels.